following a strict schedule with no exceptions.
Oh, I
This
thought
is
it was
an
on
interview,
already.
not a debate. There'll be no redirect questions. The candidate will be allowed 1.5 minutes for an introduction. Then panelists will be given 30 seconds to pose a question. The candidate will then be given 1 minute to respond. If time allows, audience members will be invited to pose a question, and/or the panel will be asked for more questions. This is not a forum to air personal grievances. Complex questions that require too lengthy of an answer will be disqualified. And since we only have one panelist, we don't have to worry about asking, one candidate, we don't have to worry about asking questions to more than one candidate. Again, with our panel, so we begin with Mr. Brent Leavitt is our candidate. Give your introduction.
I'm Brent Leavitt, as you can see here. I'm actually running for state assembly. It's my second time running. I ran a couple years ago. Unfortunately, I did not succeed that time, but I really believe in the state. I was born and raised in this town, and I love Nevada and everything that happens here. It's been a great state to live in and grow up in. I'm a graduate of Clark County High School, Rancho High School, and I went to the University of Reno and have a degree in economics. I work currently in the health insurance industry. Back in January, I was the #1 broker for Nevada Health Link in the state, help people enroll in some health insurance. And you know what, I love what I do. I love helping people. And you know, the state assembly definitely has some trials ahead of it right now. And I definitely believe that we need to keep this place a business-friendly environment. I'm a little bit afraid that we've kind of pushed them away in the last couple of years, and it's a little bit distraught. Kind of the people we voted in office. I think we can change that. And I just can sit idly by and just not do anything. So I'm running again for state assembly. I think I can make a big difference this time around.
Thank you. And I should mention that this interview is being recorded, and we do have a timer, so when you hear a tone, your time is expired. Let's start with our first question from Mr. Brent.
First of all, I want to thank you for showing up. I know this process can be rather daunting. So I'll start with this. This November, people, the state will be voting for question 3, which is the education initiative, or what was known as the Margins Acts. Are you for it, against it, and if against it, or if it fails, would you be looking to sponsor a bill or vote for a bill that would, say, put a sales tax on services?
I'm actually 100% against any kind of initiative to raise business taxes in any way. It's not business friendly. It will not help education, in my opinion. I know all the teachers unions, a lot of them are really behind this, saying we need more money in our schools. I want to call you out. I've been hearing that since I was 2 years old, since I was in high school, in elementary school, 4 years old. We need more money, we need more money, we need more money in our education system. And I've seen so much waste and troubles in the classroom. That's not where our problem is in the state. Our problem is in our education reforms. And the fact that we just want to make some tax and businesses, try to find some big pockets, it's never going to work. If we get businesses where they need to go in this town and actually bring people here and make it a business-friendly area, will we actually see revenues increase, and that'll actually increase the educational funding as well. And we can actually create more people that are willing to make a difference in this town as well. If we bring more people, we'll have more education. We'll just go down.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Ms. Knight.
Okay, my question is about the BLM land. Do you think it's a federal political issue or a state legislative issue? And if so, do you think at the state level, what do you plan on doing to make any changes, or do you even care to make any changes?
I'm assuming you're referring to the whole Bundy case here?
Kind of, but it all stems from that, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting. My particular family is actually grew up. My family's been in this town for a long time. They used to own some grazing land out in Area 51 that actually was taken away from them when they first opened Area 51. And I can say my family's been part of this whole process in a lot of ways. But you know, it's definitely. I would love to make a difference and try to make it more of a state issue and trying to take back a little bit of our state and back to our state controls in their hands. There's a lot more there that you know I've never really dove into myself, and to say this time I would not be able to say either way in general. But you know, if somebody came up to me and said, "Brent, I want to pass legislation, I'll put this more on the state's hands," I would definitely be before going in that direction with that person and educating myself even more on the matter in that situation. I'd love to be, if you have any more further like in-depth in the question, help me answer, I'd love to have to do that.
Our next question is from Mr. Fox.
Good morning. I want to talk to you about your business plan. You talk about small businesses, growing small businesses. Your district has a huge population of veterans. Looking close to 45% of your district is veterans who are eligible for veteran small business loans. But here in Nevada, that's not always successful. So as part of your plan to make sure that that small business succeeds and we're able to grow that as a community, what would your plan be to ensure that veterans and their small businesses in your district can succeed and aren't overrun by the increased licensing fees, the startup costs that tear us apart?
Yeah, you know what? We work a lot of veterans. In fact, the company I work for, we do a lot of nonprofit stuff, you know, for veterans. In fact, we even have a little memorial out in Red Rock. We do a big thing for every year. And you know what? The veterans are a big important thing. And the biggest issue with any small business is the fact that we put so much red tape to them in just getting started out the door. And veterans and educating them is the #1 key. In fact, I worked a lot with, like, when we had the North Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce and Las Vegas Chamber, we work a lot with the Nellis Air Force Base, trying to make sure we know that there are some jobs available to them. I personally like to, you know, get some more legislation where we can actually decrease some of those fees, and maybe even waive those fees, even if it means for veterans or any kind of group of individuals that definitely want to make business happen in the state. We just need to make it a business-friendly state in general. You know, veterans are a big part of this community, especially since we have Nellis Air Force Base in our own backyard. And even in my district, you know, my district is touching Nellis Air Force Base. I would like to see some kind of legislation we can definitely eliminate those things altogether and get those barrier to entries and allow them to compete in this national marketplace. As a assemblyman, there's a lot more to say about that.
Thank you. Our next question from Mr. Atkins.
One of the major challenges we have here is attracting companies to come to the Clark County area of Nevada to do business, and industrial commercial space is a problem. Recently, we've learned that the 250,000 square foot to 1 million square foot space is lacking here, and that is what most of the more attractive companies are looking for. What would you do to help developers or investors build out this type of space so we can be more competitive?
You know, I live in North Las Vegas, and you know, North Las Vegas has more land available to grow than most of the other cities in our state do. And you know, the biggest issue is just trying to get them to realize that it's even there. And it's really about education. If we can get some legislation out there, you're trying to just say, hey, we need to do some kind of advertising and educating people that are outside the state. They need to come to our state and actually build businesses here. We need to get rid of some of our extensive licensing. In fact, Nevada has the worst licensing out of any kind of professional, most of the states in the nation when it comes to licenses and requirements we have. We need to get rid of those more and actually say, hey, we're a business-friendly state to be in. Instead of saying, come here and forget your life, we need to actually say, come here and actually build a lot. I think that's when, as a state assemblyman, what we can do is build that knowledge around the world and say, hey, this is a great place to build businesses because we're actually decreasing our business taxes, not increasing them like most of our people in the state want to do.
Our next question from Robbie.
Sorry about that. It's Mr. Brent. Back to the ranch question, because that's something that's a hot issue right now in Nevada. If you were assemblyman elected and you were in a situation where, you know, with this evolving right now, which primarily, from what I understand, it's they're being demanded by the government because the habitat of endangered desert tortoise versus raising their cattle. How would you handle this situation, Assemblyman, and to try to keep keep the peace and also their rights?
That's definitely a difficult question you asked there. You know, with any kind of legislature, it's very imperative that we listen to both sides and look at both sides of the story and understand where they're coming from. And unfortunately, you have to kind of come to an agreement in the middle ground to try to help appease both sides in a lot of ways to make sure that we're not trying to backlash and create a revolution in our own state. You know, I think it's one of the biggest things that makes us free in this country is the fact that we believe in our own personal rights and be able to become an entrepreneur. I think we need to look at that number one first of all and saying, okay, what are we doing here? How are we affecting their livelihood and business in general? The life of the tortoise, you know, they've been here a long, long time, but you know, we're just trying to be special interest to one little animal. That's not necessarily looking at the big picture of things. And that animal, we never know if that animal could survive in other ways and other fashions. And we need to kind of look at those situations as well and be willing to listen to both sides and make up an idea to say, maybe, hey, you know, it's not really a national issue, it's more of a states' rights issue, right? States' rights issue. And, you know, they kind of work, from what I understand, we've kind of changed the whole idea of what's going on. We're saying we want to fight for this turtle here. And in fact, people have been killing these turtles for a long, long time since I've been growing up here. It's been a big concern for all people. At the same time, we have this situation of, I'm running out of time. Is that my question?
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. Whitman.
When our soldiers go overseas and fight for this country from the state of Nevada, and if their driver's license expires, there's no way for them to renew or to get granted an extension while they're fighting for this country. Will you propose legislation so that when our soldiers come back from being deployed or being shipped out from our state, our resident soldiers, would you propose a bill so that when they come back they don't get tickets for driving on suspended or expired licenses? Or do you understand the question?
I understand the question. Yeah, no, it's definitely something I haven't really thought about or been told before. But I definitely would agree with something like that, and that would be a great thing to bring to the table and actually propose some legislation that would help.
So when you're elected, that would be one of the first things you take care of with our soldiers who are fighting for this country?
Definitely one of the things that you know, it's like I said, it's the first time I've heard about that kind of legislation, so definitely would come up to my mind is I could definitely propose something like that when I first get elected, yes.
Thank you.
Our next question, Mr. Angel.
If elected, what's the one personal issue that you would like to make a change or issue or bring to the legislature that is a passion of yours?
The biggest passion that I have right now, actually two things, is I want to eliminate the business taxes that we have in the state. My biggest issue right now is trying to fight to get rid of this proposition number 3 that we have coming up. We're trying to get this margins tax done. You know, last couple years back, the people voted against raising our sales tax, and yet the legislature went ahead and just said, screw you, I'm going to take care of this anyways. I'm going to increase our sales tax. That's my first number one war that I'm going against. Number 2 is a lot of healthcare stuff. I've been in the middle of this whole healthcare reform stuff here in the state. We don't realize how much it's going to affect us. In fact, all these new expansion Medicaid and so forth, I want to be able to be up there to try to make sure our budgeting is taken care of, because that's what the legislature does, is they take care of the budgets for the state, put them where they need to go. And I think we need to reform some of our healthcare reform stuff, especially at the Medicaid level, and some of our welfare packages to make it more friendly to not only the state, but also to the people that it serves. Those are two big things.
Our next question comes from Mr. Broadway.
Hi, Mr. Leavitt, and thank you for being here. Judge Assad yesterday did some for or against questions, and I liked it, so I'm going to ask you a few.
Okay.
Simply for or against. First one is campus carry.
For.
Term limits.
For.
Driver's license for undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants or whatever.
For that.
Okay. Are you for education for children of illegal parents or against?
For.
And are you for or against the North Las Vegas law with regards to the concealed carry?
Against.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Ms. Mosley.
Mr. Leavitt. The city of North Las Vegas is currently facing possible takeover by the state because of their budget falls. I want to know, what have you done as a citizen of North Las Vegas in Assembly District 7 to work with the North Las Vegas government to remedy that problem?
You know what, I've gotten to know our mayor and our our ward council very, very well in the last couple of years. And hoping they know me really well too. And Mayor Lee is a good friend of my family and so forth. And, I've talked to them and I've voiced my concern to them. I would actually, my personal thing in assembly, North Las Vegas has suffered a big deal of issue with not only getting their fair share of the sales tax. That's a big concern that they've never really gotten. In fact, they've always said, well, Henderson and Las Vegas are always bigger populations. They've been here a bit longer.
You're talking
And
about the C-tax.
the C-tax, yeah, exactly. And North Las Vegas is not getting that share. And one of the concerns I've gotten even from some of the city council is the state assembly has not even listened to them. The incumbent that's in there right now, my seat hasn't even taken their appointments to even talk to them at all. And that's one of the things that I think we need to do, especially assembly, because that's a big thing that looks bad on our state if one of our cities goes under. And North Las Vegas is a big part of our community, and I'd be representing them in every way that I can to make sure that we're taking care of the city. That's not the only issue. And in fact, it's nice that they finally came to some agreements with our police and fire in order to try to make things.
So you would say you're working directly with their
Oh,
city
yeah,
officials
definitely.
too?
Definitely.
As a citizen?
As a citizen.
Next question comes from Mr. Kelly.
While motor vehicle accidents were down slightly from last year, pedestrian and motorcycle fatalities sharply rose. I want to know what you attribute this to and what you would do to make our roadways safer.
I ask myself that question all the time. What causes this to happen? Why are we having this motor vehicle accidents? One of the things I know they've looked into is changing some of the timing of light systems and things like that. I'd like to see, North Las Vegas trying to pull in more of the flashing yellows. I'd like to propose more of that kind of legislation, trying to make sure our road safety and stuff are happening across the state. If we can do some more little small things that have proven to reduce traffic incidents, I think we should be able to introduce legislation that will help ensure that safety.
Next question from Mr. Jonas.
Okay, so my question is, you've talked a lot about small businesses and attracting businesses into the state of Nevada, and I can't agree more. But my question is that how do we attract businesses when we have a subpar recruiting pool here due to our lack of education? So I hear you saying money is not the answer, but if money is not the answer, what is the answer? What would you do specifically to help fix education here in Nevada?
Growing up here, being born and raised here, I hear that all the time. People say that. I think that is 100% truly false. It actually has more to do with the perceptions. We have people that have doctorate degrees that can't find work in their type of field. I meet people all the time. I have a degree in this and this and this, and I have the ability to do it, but nobody's out here hiring for that position. And so what they do is they go and they valet it at the Village or something like that. Not realizing what kind of opportunities are out here. And then companies tell me the same thing, looking for somebody in this position. And yeah, I'm like, why don't you just team up with him? He's here in Vegas. Why do you have to hire somewhere in Florida, bring him here to Nevada, and you have a guy at the back door? The problem is companies and so forth aren't even looking here because they don't realize that they are here. We have great universities here. I mean, University of Reno, we have UNLV. They're graduating people in these fields that have great education. The problem is they're just not knowing where the businesses are because the universities are not soliciting to these companies to let them know that, hey, I'm graduating these people with these degrees. You need to hire from us within. Maybe give them some tax advantage to say, hey, if you hire somebody here in the state, we can, we'll definitely give you some tax advantage or maybe some money to help keep them on board and train them to make sure they stay in their state instead of sending them off to some other place. I have great friends that graduate from Nevada schools and they're out working these great jobs and they're engineers and everything like that. But it's tough.
Mr. Hughes, your question.
I have a bunch of them, but I'll only ask one. I just want to piggyback on Mr. Atkins and Ms. Knight's questions. One of the candidates for governor in this state has said that taking the BLM out and bringing back our land will attract bigger businesses and be able to have the land to be able to give to them to have those kind of properties. And I noticed when you were answering Ms. Knight's question, you said, if someone proposed the law, what are you trying to say, that you won't propose the law, or that's my question, is are you trying to say that you wouldn't propose the law, but if somebody else would, then you would vote yes on it?
It's definitely something I would have to be more educated on. I might say I wouldn't propose it right now. It's not only, it's something that it's not number one on my list. particularly right now. And I like to be the type, if I propose something, I want to make sure I'm fully educated in what I'm proposing and taking it to court, or taking it to the people, to vote on it and actually create a decent law. I'm not going to just write something up and say, let's find out what's in it after we pass it. I don't want to have to be the one that does that. But I mean, proposing it and getting into a committee, if I got in one of those committees and was able to participate in there, I would definitely propose a law like that and do that.
Our next question comes from Ms. Steelman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Leavitt. Thank you for joining us here today. Assuming you are elected and you are voted into office by legal tax-paying citizens of the state, as an elected representative of those legal tax-paying citizens of the state and their representative of Nevada, please explain to me how you can justify promoting or advocating for upholding benefits for people who are here illegally and assumingly not tax-paying citizens. How can you forsake the people who voted you into office for people who are breaking the law?
That's a good question. And when you have people that are here illegally, unfortunately, there's some issues that we have to deal with. First of all, why are they here illegally, and what are the jobs they here that are making them stay? There's some big issues we have with crime and trying to make sure that we're not policing ourselves correctly. Number one, and number two is I look at my friends that are here that are actually citizens of the United States. Their parents came here illegally, and unfortunately, we are wanting to punish those kids because of the crimes of the parents. And I think the benefits you're talking about is talking about like education. I think their number one thing in the United States is trying to educate people. We have some here, whether they're legal or not, a lot of times their kids are becoming here and they're being born legally in the state and they're becoming citizens of the United States and they're the ones that are voting. And if we can educate them in a good system to actually be honest taxpayers and realize, hey, wait a minute, mom and dad came here legally, I didn't know this. And so maybe they need to do something and say, wait a minute, if something were to happen, maybe that might have changed my parents. Maybe they would come here legally. And we need to actually have some accountability. If we make things legal for them, we can maybe start saying, hey, wait a minute, we know that so-and-so is here legally, and we can actually provide some kind of policing and say, you know what, you never paid your taxes, and you're not here legally, there needs to be some punishment, remuneration, what you're doing, and speak to it. We can't just deny everybody the right to one of the things that makes this country big and strong is the education benefits. I am not advocating at all for health benefits for people illegally. I don't think we should offer those to people that are illegal at all. We need to make sure we're policing that. And in fact, our systems that are in place don't even provide those benefits to people that are illegal. It only provides for people that are actually legal here, documented workers.
You mentioned driver's licenses for illegal aliens, and as far as children are concerned, that's another issue, whether they're being brought here against their will. The law that states that they are legal just because they were born here is another issue as well. I'm talking about providing benefits to people who are here illegally, breaking the law knowingly, and you are put into office by people who expect you to uphold the laws of the land. The laws already exist, and I'm pretty sure it's not your place as an assemblyman to say whether or not those laws are just or should be applied or to whom they should be applied. So with that in mind, again, please justify to me how you can support providing benefits to people who are not here legally.
On the driver's license law, the reason why I'm for that is, I know a lot of Metro officers that are my friends, and I've talked to them extensively on this matter and got to understand why it is that they're actually, a lot of the officers are for this kind of thing. It has to do a lot with policing our own nation and making sure that they're actually keeping tally of people. When people are here illegally, they tend to do things and flee the scenes, and they do things a lot more illegally. And if you can actually have them on the books and say, okay, you're actually providing actual insurance on your vehicle, it helps protect us as a nation and those taxpayers that are trying to elect me in office, try to protect them.
So rather than removing them.
Ms. Steelman.
There should be cost analysis.
Okay, we're getting into a debate.
There should be cost analysis, stuff like that in there. I think the cost benefits, outweigh trying to get rid of them and trying to place them in our state. I love what Arizona did a couple years back, trying to make sure they police illegal immigration. But the problem is, that there was unfortunately, the federal government said that is a federal law, and they're fortunately policed by the federal government. I'd love to do some things like that, but as a state, we need to do what we can do within our powers, and trying to make sure we do what we can in making our state a lot more profitable, and not less profitable, but making sure it's a more safer place for our kids and our family to grow, and also keeping our freedoms At the same time, I'm not trying to take away, let people that are coming here illegal try to take away those freedoms and causing a lot of crime and stuff like that.
Thank you.
So Mr. Broadway wishes to ask a follow-up question or additional question.
Yeah, this is a little bit in relation to that, but not so brutal. How do you plan to keep in contact with your constituents if elected and maintain communication with the people?
You know, that's one thing I love to do is I love to talk to my constituents and I love to get their feedback. I'm a big proponent of advertising myself on Facebook and Twitter. I keep myself open. I'm an open door. I don't try to close anything off to anybody. And I like to open communication. I try to get out in my community. I go to different events. I actually am the one that usually volunteers in time to be at these events, like the state of the city address, things like that. I don't go there to pay to sit at the table and be a dignitary. I'm here to type that sits back and serve everybody else, and that's what I like to be doing. What I would like to be trying to get to know those people in my community.
Mr. Hughes?
We have time for another
We have a couple, few minutes. I was going to invite anyone from the audience if they had a question, but let's let Mr. Hughes go first.
Yes, Mr. Leavitt, I have another question for you. Last year, Justin Jones, background check law. I'm not going to ask you whether you're for or against background checks. My question is, both the Assembly and the Senate voted down party lines for or against that bill. It seemed to me that obviously somebody in those parties were telling their people to vote for or against that law. Are you going to be a party person, or are you going to be somebody that sticks with your constituents and listens to what they want you to vote for?
Number one, I'm a person of integrity, and I'll vote, first of all, based upon how I feel that things should go. And then secondly, I want to make sure I listen and be cognizant of my constituents. I'm really kind of against all the party stuff that goes on, especially in Nevada. It's really kind of disheartening, especially what goes on in the news and media. And it's really kind of destroyed a lot of our politics in this country, made it more like it's a big party politic world. And I think with the advent of most of the internet and everything like that, it just makes it even more polarized. And I'd like to see some of those things change. So that's a big thing to happen.
This time I'd like to open it to our audience. So if we have any audience members, yes, sir, state your name and your question.
My name is Tom Delhenti. I've heard you say a couple of times that we need legislation, and I'm of the belief that we have so many laws now that it's impossible for us not to all be criminals at some point. We're always breaking some type of law. Are there any laws that you can think of right now that you would actually like to see repealed?
The first one, I would say, I'd like to repeal a lot of the laws we have, like the laws that actually tax our sales tax. Those are big things I'd like to get rid of. Big fan of trying to keep retail and stuff like that here in the state. I'd like to get rid of a lot of our licensing laws in general. Like I said before, I'd like to get rid of some of those. I work in a very heavily regulated industry with insurance and financials and stuff like that, and I think a lot of it just is a lot of red tape and it's stupid. We have a lot of just things going on in our state, trying to keep people out of the mud. There's a lot more. I mean, like you said, you see the book of laws, law or bad or probably statutes. It's a long list of laws I'd like to get off the books.
Well, a lot of people say that, but very few people actually, offer up something to repeal. I mean, I'm talking just basically.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
we're not allowed to have debates.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to repeal. It's a lot easier to have than it is to take away.
Do we have anyone else from the audience that would like to ask a question? Okay, we have a couple of minutes.
I don't know if I can question. The approval from Steve.
Are candidates in other races allowed to ask questions? Okay. We have the answer in the affirmative, so we will allow.
Okay, my name is Stuart Tenner. I'm actually running District 5, and I'm a reservist, so I just am curious to understand generally in terms of where you see military living in this state, what you think the state can do to improve the situation for all military, whether retired, active duty, just in general question.
That's a good question, especially in this state where we have that supported, like I said, Nellis Air Force Base. We also have Army Air Base and then Central Nevada and stuff like that. One of the biggest issues I have, one of my good friends is in Air Force, she's a psychiatrist, and I think a lot of the stuff we have with military people coming home is a lot of the change you go through and coming back home and being in the state and being in regular civilian life. I'd love to see some programs where we can actually try to integrate them a little better, be more supportive of them, and especially when it comes to like mental health and so forth. That's the biggest, I think, challenge a lot of reservists and a lot of people that come from the military have, and trying to get them back integrated in the system. What we're doing, especially, I taught my company about benefits. We do a lot of stuff. My boss, he does a lot of stuff with educating them to become entrepreneurs and trying to get them to know what they need to do when they get out. And we need to have some programs like that where we actually support them in their fields and say, hey, this is how you become successful in the real world. This is what can happen. This is what you can see when you get out of here. And if we can do some more support with that, that'd be wonderful for us to do. Maybe those businesses that are contracting with us and so forth, maybe those people could go out there and actually be willing to say, I'm going to hire you after you get out of this place. Maybe you get a nice little, you can say you get some tax breaks or so forth to help bring them back in your business.
We have time for one final question from our panel. I want to thank you for participating in the political process, and good luck to you in the election.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.